Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Good morning to you on this Friday, my penultimate Friday in the morning drive. So I want you to pay very close attention. Yesterday, normal Americans who had a way to make it happen watched the Allstate Sugar Bowl because they wanted to watch Notre Dame in Georgia. And congratulations to the Irish, 23-10. Texted throughout a very good game with my Irish buddies. I'm hoping that Ohio State does not have to crush Notre Dame en route to the national championship, but it may have to. I don't know that Notre Dame get past Penn State. Do you notice that you just have to begin in Happy Valley, and then go to Columbus, and then head on over to our third northern team in the playoffs? Who's playing Texas? Ohio State. Who's playing Notre Dame? I'll think of it. Penn State. So it's Notre Dame. So it's Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame. 3 out of the Final 4. All northern teams. Listen to Kings of the North. But I hope you enjoyed the game. Good football game. Sort of end of the football season, though the playoffs go on, and Ohio State is marching towards its victory. I was a bit stunned at the beginning when Allstate CEO Tom Wilson takes to the field and makes this statement in a video, cut number 8.
Welcome to the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Wednesday, tragedy struck the New Orleans community. Our prayers are with the victims and their families. We also need to be stronger together by overcoming an addiction to divisiveness and negativity. Join Allstate working in local communities all across America to amplify the positive, increase trust, and accept people's imperfections and differences. Together, we win.
All right, now 23 seconds. Allstate. I am not an Allstate customer. I wouldn't drop my Allstate policy because of this. This is not the moment that Bud Light loses millions of customers by sending branded bottles to Dylan Mulroney, if you remember that. This is not that. This is that. There you have it, Dylan Mulroney and his Bud Light, her Bud Light. And it is a memorable moment in the catastrophic fall of a brand. Now, Allstate works very hard at its brand. Their brand guy is chaos. You may have heard, Adam, if we can play a little bit chaos, that's their brand guy. They spend millions and millions of dollars branding chaos. And they're funny, like chaos on the kiss cam, chaos at the wedding as the best man watching the game. Yeah, mayhem. And Mayhem does all sorts of funny things. And Mayhem is a good shtick. Allstate. Yeah, get Allstate. Yeah, get Allstate. And they millions and tens of millions of dollars building up a funny ad. And there's a terrible event in New Orleans, the largest terrorist attack in the United States since 9/11, by a jihadi. We don't know about the Las Vegas terror attack because the FBI won't tell us anything. But a big terror attack, Fort Hood comes to mind. A jihadi in New Orleans kills at least 15, wounds 30, would have done more. He's an American, self-radicalized. We'll find out his story. His brother is talking, his other brother is talking. People are talking. We'll find out his story. We are also finding out that the suicide bomber outside of the Trump Hotel in the Cybertruck, not related in my view, given what we learned about him now. So I don't talk much about things until the stories click into place. But Tom Wilson said what he said. And I want to think for a moment about what has happened to corporate communications. This was not an instant reaction. Right? Tom Wilson, who is the CEO of Allstate, understands they have to move the Sugar Bowl. He understands he's got a product to sell and a bowl to brand, and it's one of his big brand trains. And they're going to have mayhem throughout the game. So he's got to say something about New Orleans, and he comes up with this. Let's play it again, cut number 8.
Welcome to the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Wednesday, tragedy struck the New Orleans community. Our prayers are with the victims and their families. We also need to be stronger together by overcoming an addiction to divisiveness and negativity. Join Allstate working in local communities all across America to amplify the positive, increase trust, and accept people's imperfections and differences. Together,
All right.
we win.
I'm so astonished by this. Accept people's differences. Is he talking to the Islamists out there? Because he moved from a heartfelt, New Orleans, we're with you, we're proud. I could have written this in 5 minutes. New Orleans, strong. We're proud of you. We're proud of the Sugar Bowl. We're never leaving the Sugar Bowl. Allstate is with you. Allstate will never let you down. Allstate insures the lives and the businesses of people who are hurt by this terrorist, and we hope that terrorism ends, and we call on the government to do everything it can, but Allstate is here to help those who are injured, as we always are. I could have done it in 5 minutes. Anybody in America with a gift for understanding, if you're going to take those 23 seconds before the Sugar Bowl and you're going to mention the terrorism attack the day before, that seems to me to be likely. You don't have to say we have to overcome our addiction to divisiveness and negativity. What is that supposed to mean? An addiction to divisiveness and negativity is blaming the victims in New Orleans. Let's just be blunt. Somebody wrote him this copy. I don't think Mr. Wilson had any idea what he was going to read. I don't know that he did anything except get me something up. No one watches the beginning of the Allstate game. Of course, it took off on social media. This is the era in which you cannot speak on behalf of your company without realizing you are tempting brand damage. And boy, people made fun of. There's other news today, right? Mike Johnson's going to be elected speaker today. A federal appeals court struck down net neutrality. Israel made another daring raid into Syria in Aleppo last night. There's lots of news around the world, but not really. It's the first sort of week of work, and people kind of went to work, but they didn't. And almost everyone I know watched Notre Dame, Georgia yesterday, judging from my text threads, talking to people about the game. I wanted to coach that game because, for whatever reason, Marcus Freeman wouldn't run around the ends. He ran between the tackles. It should have been a 4-touchdown game. Georgia isn't very good without their starting quarterback and a couple other people, and it was just not a very good game. Don't blame the kid on the sidelines. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. Refs ran into a kid in a jersey on the sideline, 15. You know, if I'm the ref, by the way, that ref, come on. Really, come on. Trying to make a Bartman out of the kid, don't do that. And so I'm just still stunned. And I want you to focus for a moment. What has happened to America's corporate communications department is what has happened to America generally. We don't know how to talk. We don't know how to say something. Someone says we have to express some solidarity with communities, not our own. And they come up with this. One more time. Tom Wilson, cut number 8.
Welcome to the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Wednesday, tragedy struck the New Orleans community. Our prayers are with the victims and their families. We also need to be stronger together by overcoming an addiction to divisiveness and negativity. Join Allstate working in local communities all across America to amplify the positive, increase trust, and accept people's imperfections and differences. Together, we win.
All right, there are two lines in there. First line is overcome our addiction to divisiveness and negativity and accept other people's differences. Hi, I'm America. I am not addicted to negativity. Anyone who's listened to this show for the past 25 years I've been on Salem Media, or the 10 years before that at PBS, or the 4 years before that at KFI. No, I'm an upbeat guy. I want you to be happy. I want you to get to work. I'm not addicted to negativity. I'm not addicted to divisiveness. Politics is politics. I am not a terrorist. I don't believe anyone applauds what the terrorists did in New Orleans. I haven't seen that. And I accept people's differences. I always have. I believe in a colorblind society. I don't care what your gender is. Don't care what your race is. Don't care what your age is. I care about how you work, how you perform, the talents you bring to the table, the fact that you're a human being. I'm with C.S. Lewis. You have never met an ordinary mortal. Everyone is an everlasting splendor or an eternal horror, right? If you're a Christian, you have this worldview. I do not need a lecture from the Allstate CEO, who I don't think wrote it, about our addiction to divisiveness and negativity, or that we need to accept each other's differences. I don't know what he's trying to say. And when I come back, I'm going to keep talking about this for 2 more segments. I think he's trying to say, don't blame the terrorists. But really, it's just corporate speak for get me out of here. I don't want to offend anybody. And the fact of the matter is the terrorist was a jihadist. And there's no offending Muslims by talking about jihadis. That's my point. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, talking about corporate America and its decline into incoherence. And my example this morning is Tom Wilson, the hapless CEO of Allstate. Now, I'll bet you he's a wonderful guy. I do. I think to become the head of an insurance company like Allstate, which is primarily in the business of insuring everything in your life, your car, your home, your automobile, maybe life insurance. I don't know if they do that. And they spend a lot of money on a very good creative team. So there are creative people who are working for Allstate. They do the Mayhem ads, and we're playing a few of the Mayhem ads on the Salem News Channel. And if you're listening or you're watching this morning, I don't want you to think I want you to change your Allstate policy. I don't. I want you to talk to your boss, or if you are a senior communicator, about speaking clearly what you want to say and knowing what it is that you want to say before you go on, and perhaps testing it out with a professional. If you're going to have a big platform, any kind of big platform is relative to what the event is. You might have a big platform in the 8th grade election. You might have a big platform in running for Congress. You might have a big platform in a debate. Former President and future President Donald Trump has a big platform at True Social and at X. But yesterday, Allstate CEO gets a big platform, and it's after a dramatic event, a horrific, terrible loss of life in New Orleans, and the victims' stories are heartbreaking. So they pull Tom Wilson and they say, you've got to revise whatever we had done before. We've come up with a new script for you, boss. And he looks at it and he reads it and he okays it. So it's Tom Wilson's responsibility. I don't know how it got to him. I don't know how much time he had. All I know is that he chose to go along with the words that were given to him. And here's what he said one more time.
Welcome to the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Wednesday, tragedy struck the New Orleans community. Our prayers are with the victims and their families. We also need to be stronger together by overcoming an addiction to divisiveness and negativity. Join Allstate working in local communities all across America to amplify the positive, increase trust, and accept people's imperfections and differences. Together, we win.
All right, so he told us to do a number of things. Amplify the positive. I agree with that. Go to work in your community. Great. But he deigned lecture us on 2 things. We need to overcome our addiction to divisiveness and negativity, and we need to accept people's differences. Now, it goes without saying that we are committed to the Constitution of the United States and at its core, the Declaration of Independence. I teach constitutional law. I make it abundantly clear that we are respectful of everyone, regardless of background or ideology. In the classroom, I do it over and over again. It's about professional demeanor. You never assign blame. You might ask questions. You might indeed come to conclusions. You may get into heated arguments, but you do not impute to the other side. It's the worst debating technique. It's the thing that makes me craziest in any kind of conversation, is when someone imputes to me a position I do not hold. They don't know what I hold. They don't know what I believe. But here is the head of Allstate before a celebratory game in a city struck down by grief, telling people that we need to overcome our addiction to divisiveness and negativity, and then we need to accept people's differences. It's not our fault. It's not America's fault. It isn't anybody's fault except the jihadi who ran his car into the innocent people of Bourbon Street. We have to blame the ideology, which is an extremist version. I'll say the same thing about any extremist who acts on their own in defense of their crazed ideology. It is not the fault of the children who were murdered in Nashville. It's not the fault of the children who were murdered in Sandy Hook. It's not the fault of the people who got shot in Las Vegas. It's not the fault of the dancers at the Orlando nightclub. It is never the victim's fault. So if you're going to take the stage after one of these things, and your phone calls are welcome, 1-800-520-1234. Do not tell Americans they need to overcome their divisiveness and negativity addictions. No, we do not need to overcome our negativity and divisiveness addictions. We are not addicted to negativity and divisiveness. That is a blue bubble mantra from the comms warrens of the Manhattan Beltway media elite with a little sprinkling of tech bro talk and Hollywood blather. It's not true. We already accept people's differences. This is the most tolerant country in history. In history, Mr. Allstate. More coming up. Welcome back, America. That music, of course, is from the musical Hamilton. The World Turned Upside Down is allegedly the music which the band played when Lord Cornwallis surrendered the British troops to George Washington at Yorktown on October 19th, 1781. In this wonderful book, Land of Hope, An Invitation to the Great American Story. It's the best, by far, comprehensive American history. It's college level. A good high school student could get through it. It's college level survey course history stuff. And this will mark my 28th year of teaching con law. And I've had to revise everything from start to bottom. Adopted a new casebook, a different kind of casebook. This casebook by Randy Barnett and Josh Blackman, which is called An Introduction to Constitutional Law, 100 plus cases. Supreme Court cases everyone should know, and Randy and Josh have done a wonderful job on their video supplements. But I'm also obliging all of my students in both con law and one to read and memorize Land of Hope. And by memorize, I mean they're going to have to outline it, they're going to have to know it, they're going to have to understand American history. Because the biggest development, and it's one that our CEO at Allstate, Mr. Tom Wilson, needs to know, is that over the last 25 years, we've become a country of historically unable people, disabled people. We are illiterate as to our history. I was reading from the Wilfred McClay book this morning that we don't know for certain whether the band played The World Turned Upside Down. He's very, very good about what we know to be true and what we know to be apocryphal and legend. So it might be legend. But as we've seen, the most influential justifications offered in favor of revolution, and we did engage in a revolution here in the United States in 1776, invoke not radical change, but rather restoration, restoring and protecting the colonists' customary rights as Englishmen, as the pretext for a revolution. But like any great historical event, the American Revolution was complicated with many aspects. Even those fighting on the other side, on the same side, saw things differently. To a greater extent than many of us appreciate today, the Revolutionary War in America took on many aspects of a civil war. Loyalists against patriots, dividing families, towns, regions, social classes, producing fierce struggles over the fundamental political and social values. Loyalty to the crown had been the instinctive response of a sizable minority of Americans. But for some reason, the resonant words of the Declaration of Independence pointed towards a larger aspiration, something more than mere restoration. Such an interpretation pointed towards the emergence on the world stage of something genuinely new, a Republican order built upon a principled commitment to both equality and liberty. Now, I know that the anti-American people are quick to point out that in 1789, when the Constitution is adopted, or 1776, when the Declaration of Independence issues, they're not completed documents. There is slavery in the land. There is the oppression of the native peoples. There is a lot to tell about the warts of America, and we tell them every year in con law. If you teach con law, you're teaching history and you're teaching the warts of America. But at the same time, it's important to realize ours is the most successful experience in Republican government and in freedom in the history of the globe, which is billions of years old, or evolved man, 200,000 years old. of every government of every history. Ours is the most successful. You're listening to me. Even if you're in Canada, you're second most successful because you're our neighbor. But the most successful experiment in ordered liberty is ours. And we have produced so much wealth, so much extraordinary good for the world, which we've saved twice, 3 times if you count Reagan and the Soviet Union. We'll do it again. Because America is rich and it's blessed, it's got natural resources. It has knuckleheads for leadership, and we are presently not being led. The current occupant of the White House, genie old fellow, doesn't know where he is most days, is signing a piece of paper today to say he's banning oil drilling forever. That's absurd. That'll be repealed. He's declaring half of California a national monument today. Another absurd stroke of the pen. He's running around doing everything his progressive lefty staff wants him to do. In the meantime, we have a real problem. We have terrorists in the country. We had 2 terror attacks, one by an obvious psychotic break in Nevada. The background of that individual indicates psychotic break. I don't know what about the guy in New Orleans. Takes a long time to plan IEDs, an attack on Bourbon Street at 3:15 in the morning. I'll just wait on that. But I do know that the responses have been so appallingly off-key. We grieve for New Orleans. We will contribute to the GoFundMe efforts that are put together for the family. But Tom Wilson, who is the CEO of Allstate Insurance and the sponsor of the Allstate Insurance Sugar Bowl, it's a big deal. Their brand is built on mayhem. Their brand is they spend billions on brand. He's got a C-suite. He's got a COO, he's got a board of directors, he's got a chairman of the board. And whenever someone blows a moment in a way that this was blown, I ask myself, who were they talking with? Were they talking to their vice president of communications? Of course, if you watched any of the dramas about family wealth descending, going back to Dallas, right through the most recent one that gripped everyone, the name of which is escaping me right now, Succession. If you've watched anything from Dallas to Succession, you know that people say extraordinarily stupid things when they're under stress, and crisis communications consultants arrive, and they tell you what to say, and they tell you how to say it, and they go, and you're wondering, I'll bet you they had a crisis communication consultant involved. What do you think? What are the odds of that? The odds are 100% that they called in the vice president of corporate communications who worked on the statement along with their outside counsel, and they talked themselves into this. Cut number 8, one more time.
Welcome to the Allstate Sugar Bowl. Wednesday, tragedy struck the New Orleans community. Our prayers are with the victims and their families. We also need to be stronger together by overcoming an addiction to divisiveness and negativity. Join Allstate working in local communities all across America to amplify the positive, increase trust, and accept people's imperfections and differences. Together, we win.
Okay, did he not look up and say, why am I saying this? Who am I to tell people they need to overcome addiction to divisiveness and negativity? Who am I to say that we need to accept other people's differences? Aren't I making a judgment on our customers? Who came up with this? Really? Let's get in here and talk. What is the origin of this sentence? Let's actually talk about this sentence. Do we want to say that America is addicted to divisiveness and negativity? It isn't. I don't know about you. I just spent 3 days watching college football. It's the opposite of divisiveness and negativity. You know what? There are a lot of different people in the stands. There are a lot of different people on the sidelines. There are certainly different kind of young men on the field. Come from all sorts of different experiences. You saw proud parents. New Orleans was brought together. Everyone is rooting for New Orleans. This country is it's not Syria. This is not Iran. We are not torn apart by divisiveness and negativity. Are you an MSNBC viewer? We just had an election. Nothing happened. We're going to have the peaceful transfer of power again. We are celebrating, beginning in April, the 250th anniversary of our independence. Right? The shots heard around the world. Lexington and Concord this April, 250 years ago. I hope Team Trump is already working on it. I hope the president's up in Lexington and Concord. Site of my first campaign in 1974. And all they can come up with, all the king's horses and all the king's men surrounding the CEO of one of the biggest companies in America, And Allstate's one of the bigs. I have to wonder, does the guy read? Do the people around him think about the finger they are leveling? We need to overcome our addiction to divisiveness and negativity. It was not an addiction to divisiveness and negativity that led to the terrorist attack on New Orleans. It was not a refusal to accept our differences. It was an ideology that is comprehensive and deeply evil. It is an ideology that wraps itself around the brains of people. It's different from the woke mind virus. But the people who gave you this statement are guilty of are infected by the woke mind virus. And you've got to fire them. You've got to say to them, how could you possibly have given? I don't believe it's Tom Wilson's fault. I think some vice president for communications gave it to him. And nobody bothered to, it's just pablum. Stop doing pablum. This is the genius of Scott Jennings on CNN, by the way. It's the genius of the Ruthless podcast. It's the genius of the editors, the genius of Getting Hammered, the genius of Dwayne's World, the genius of my podcast, Highly Concentrated Hugh. Just talk about what's going on. Do not attribute to other people what they think. Unless they tell you, don't attribute to people. I don't think, by the way, I'm about to talk to Tim in Tampa. I don't know who Tim is, but I'll bet she's not addicted to divisiveness and negativity. Tim, are you addicted to divisiveness and negativity?
Absolutely the opposite, Mr. Hewitt. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Good morning.
This
What
is
did you
such-
make of this guy's statement?
I can't put it any better than you did, Mr. Hewitt. This country is the most loving, the most giving, the most caring. Look at history. When there's a problem, who goes? Who goes first? Who gives most? Who helps most? Who's all over the world doing exactly the opposite of what this guy said? And Hugh, I'll tell you who I think his communications team is. It's the same one that runs the White House, because they don't have a clue. Well, that's not true. That's not what I really think. What I really think is they do have a clue, and they are addicted to the divisiveness. Just as soon
Oh,
as
that is an excellent insight, Tim. To write this,
Just
you
as-
must yourself be an angry person. You're right.
Exactly.
To
My
write
point
this,
exactly.
you
Thank you.
must, in fact, be rejecting people's differences. You must think the problem are Trump supporters. I don't know what you think. You must think MAGA's the problem as opposed to people who resort to, say, driving a truck down Bourbon Street and killing 15 people. It's really the MAGA. It is incredible to me that it got through the system.